Hey, nice to have you back with us. And this is out of deference to our executive producer, Natasha Jacobs. You'll know her from her own show, Tech at Work. She said, it's Women's Month. We've got to do a show specifically for women. So, Natasha, this show is especially for you. Personal Finance for Women. Our guests in the studio, Evelyn Doubell, the Executive Head of Private Clients Consolidated Financial Planning, and Christelle Fourie, the Managing Director of MUA Insurance Acceptances. Good evening, ladies. Nice to have you both with us. Well, not both of you with us because Christelle is in our Cape Town studio. But is it, let's start with you, Evelyn. Is it necessary to have specific products only for women?
Yes, it is.
Why?
Women have particular, specific needs. Obviously, we're not quite like men in a lot of ways.
Yeah, a lot of ways.
In terms of financial planning products, on the risk side, we have different needs. But on the investment side, very much the same. We don't have to differentiate there. So it just depends on what you're looking at. If you're looking at risk cover, like for example, the cancers, the health covers and so on, one would need to have a look at women's conditions specifically and cover them for that. But generally, it's the same. The difference is that what we look at is women tend to live longer than men, and they also tend to earn less still in this day and age compared to the men on their same level. They also are more conservative in terms of their saving. So they need to get out of their shells and have a look and do proper planning. So it's not so much that they need different products, it's that they actually need different planning when it comes to their financial health.
Okay, so Christelle, I would imagine you would agree with that because as Evelyn was talking there, I was just thinking of my wife and I was going, yeah, tick box, tick box, tick box, tick box. I know, for example, and here I go sharing family secrets again. I know that I go for a lot more riskier investment decisions than my wife would ever go for. She's always the one who, when we sit down and look at a possible investment, she'll go, no. There's no chance it's going to do that. I can't believe that unless they can show me other facts. There is that conservative element to women. And I suppose you need to guide them through that.
Yes, and if we specifically talk about short-term insurance, the difference between men and women obviously is the needs. Women have different needs than men, and then the risk profile is very much different as well. Women are more risk averse. They take more care in everything that they do, and that ultimately has an impact at the end of the day on the insurance premium. So, so definitely two different entities that you're looking at, and a different set of rules do to some extent apply.
Just to stick with that short-term insurance side of it,
yes.
Do women, as conservative as they are, do they keep up with the, I don't know the terminology because I'm not involved in your industry, with your insurance needs, the premiums that you need to pay for the product that you actually hold? Let's be really girl here. I don't believe I'm doing this. I don't believe I'm going really girl. I don't believe it. Okay, let's go really girl here. Do women look at their piece of jewelry, their ring, and go, okay, I paid X for that. It's 5 years later, maybe I should get this checked out and see what I should be paying in insurance terms. As simple as that.
I can jump in on that. In terms of a plan, whether it's short-term cover or whether it's risk cover for your health and death and disability and so on, even for your financial planning in terms of your investments, they need to be updated or reviewed at least once a year. Things change, your life
that surely
changes.
Applies to men as well.
Both, everybody, everybody. But when you look at women specifically, is what I found with my clients is that they tend to take what you say at the beginning and then they stick to that. You have to have a look at this annually, or even when something changes in the industry, which is why I love working with women, because you phone them up and you say to them, you need to have a look at this has changed, this is going to impact on you. And if you have a good financial advisor, this information will come through more often. But at least once a year, like you have your gynae checkups, you have your doctor checkups, your dentist checkups, your financial checkup is the same thing. It must happen at least once a year. You cannot go from this point over here when you were in your 20s to in your 40s and expect that you've had the same experience all the way through.
No, because now you're going through menopause.
Perhaps not, not all of us. But what happens is that over here you might not have the debts that you're going to accumulate in your 30s and in your 40s. And then you're using your money for different things. In your 20s, you can blow it, and it's okay. But as you get older, you're allocating your resources in different ways. You've got school fees, house, car, Botox, all those things that one has to pay for. And they become more important than looking after the older person that you're going to become. And you need to have someone that aligns you. And it's just like your doctor. You won't skip a breast examination when you're in your 40s. It would be silly.
Silly, yeah.
It's the same thing. Do not skip your financial needs investigation. So have a look at your short term as well. I need to check my car once a year. It's not the same value it was last year. Why am I paying the same premium? Look at your life cover. Things change. If your premiums are increasing at 10% per annum and your cover is increasing at 3% per annum, eventually your premium is going to be this much. And I know that the life companies need to make their money off the premiums over time to cover that risk, because as you get older, your risk gets bigger. But eventually it pulls away. So you need to reevaluate and say, okay, right, am I paying the right premium for the amount of cover that I'm getting? Reassess, and if need be, get that premium
And you say
out.
you need to do it on an annual basis.
You have to do it on an annual basis. You might not change everything on an annual basis.
But you need to look at it.
You have to look at it.
Evelyn, I believe we had a bit of a glitch there, but I believe you're back with us now from Cape Town. If you look at, and this is another aspect, I suppose, that you've got to take into account, if you look at it, insuring or advising women, the high divorce rate in South Africa, you're going to have a lot of single moms out there, I would imagine.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we see a change in people's behavior. Specifically, that's why the question gets asked if an individual is married or divorced or single, because that's quite a big rating factor as far as motor insurance is concerned. But if you talk about short-term insurance and the specific needs around women, we find that's quite interesting.
I want to jump in there. I want to jump in there. What would a divorced woman? What's the difference in vehicle cover?
There's a big difference as far as the price is concerned. You know, from us as underwriters pricing the risk, you can imagine when someone gets divorced, this is men and women, their behavior changes completely. So all of a sudden they're going out at night, they're driving, you know, during strange times of the day, the car's parked outside restaurants and maybe nightclubs and whatever. So it increases the risk, and that has an effect on the actual premium that's being charged by insurance companies and underwriters.
Yes, you guys think of everything.
Watch out for divorced women, apparently.
And men, actually. They're worse.
And it's the same thing with women and their investments and their health, is that at one point in your life, because we live longer and because you've got such a high divorce rate, when you're married, one partner tends to leave the financial business to the other partner. And more often than not, it's men who take care of the finances. The women can take a back seat and say, well, I'll look after everything else, house, children, and so on. And I think that what I've seen with my clients is that when their partners pass away, when they get divorced, all of a sudden they've got to deal with this big financial monster that they knew existed, but they just never had to deal with it. And I think as women, we should actually get involved in the finances of the family right from the start. Know exactly what's going on, know where the wills are, know where the policies are, know where the investments are. You know, because when you've got to start putting these things together, once there is a split, whether it's through death or through divorce, you're going to have to deal with this on your own. You have a 90% chance as a woman of dealing with your finances on your own. So get to grips with it, sit down and plan together, at least know where things are and at least know what you've got.
Are women... Christelle, I'm going to throw this at you. Are women taking more responsibility for their financial future? Are you seeing that, or is it still a very male-dominated sector?
Well, what we actually are seeing is that women tend to be quite a big driving factor as far as insurance is concerned. So they are the ones who predominantly decide, you know, what values to insure, the house and the contents and the cars for. They do all the administration generally. And when we send out valuators to do the valuation of the contents and the buildings, normally it's the women who are there to, you know, to talk to the valuators to make sure that everything is in place. So it tends to be quite an administration task taken care by women. What we are seeing is that women are not really good at taking care of their, you know, assets. So for instance, if they do get divorced, no one is checking the, you know, the tire, the tread on the tire to see if, you know, on the motor vehicles, if that's being maintained properly, or maybe the maintenance on the homes. So that's sort of where the split lies. Is the administration is generally done by the woman, and the men tend to look after, you know, the maintenance related issues.
So would you then agree with your clients that, your experience with your clients, that the men are the ones, I'm going to generalize here, the men are the ones deciding what investment the money should go into?
Yes. Well, that's a good thing, not a bad thing, because men tend to be, like you say, take more risks. But the risk needs to be appropriate. Women don't want to lose money, and I say to them, do you want to sleep well now, knowing that there's not going to be no volatility in your portfolio, or do you want to eat well in retirement? You have a choice. You know, so you can either sleep well now and then not eat in retirement, or you can have a bit of uncomfortable sleepless nights now, but at least know that your retirement's taken care of. Men tend to take bigger risks, not in terms of just their portfolios, but in terms of the types of investments that they would go for. They would go for maybe 100% into shares. They would have a look at, you know, property deals and, you know, things that are big risk, you know, getting into it, lots of money, but the returns are big if they can see it through. And whereas women will say, you know, I'd rather put away my monthly money and I'd rather do it this way and I'll get there slowly. But getting there slowly and not taking the appropriate risk in your portfolio, you're actually not going to get there. You're not going to keep up with inflation. You're not going to keep up with whatever it is that your lifestyle requirements are going to be in retirement. We always say, oh, we want to travel, and my kids are living in Australia or wherever they are. I want to go there. I want to see my grandchildren. But, you know, the sad result is that if you're not investing properly and monitoring it properly, you're going to be sitting here. You know, and if you're lucky, your kids are wealthy enough or have enough money living in those expensive countries, if they can bring their whole family here, great, but it's not going to happen. So, you know, make those plans. Say, I want to travel overseas every second to see my grandchildren. I want to buy a new car every 7 years. I want to do these things, and say, right, what do I need to do now in order to be able to afford that then? That. So work backwards. Say, this is where I want to be. Okay, what do I need to put into place now? Work backwards. And when you work backwards, you'll see that it's a lot easier to take the appropriate risk. But when you stand here and say, that's so far away, I don't know that I'm ever going to get there, then you probably won't. I
suppose they always say hindsight is perfect sight.
Absolutely.
And so if you go forward and start looking backwards, it does make it a lot easier. We're talking specifically about finances in the female sector. And once again, I'm sitting here with two wonderful and gorgeous ladies, and just thinking to myself, that's why we don't understand them, because we just don't. I'm terribly sorry to say it. Yeah, we're all very different. We'll be back in just a moment.